Well, thank you for the invitation. I did want to express my thanks to Will Evans and also Karen Latham for putting me on the agenda and inviting me to speak. And today I'm going to give you an outline around African swine fever, which is an emerging threat in terms of biosecurity and our livestock industries here in Australia, and shift gears a little from where we've been earlier today. So a bit about the disease. It's highly contagious, it's a virus, and it infects domestic and wild pigs. And importantly, don't confuse African swine fever with African swine flu. They're very different. African swine flu is an H1N1 virus, for those that are interested, and it is can be transmitted to humans, whereas African swine fever is not. And in fact, if you are a boffin, then it's actually a DNA virus, which makes it extremely stable, and that gets scientists excited because it makes it a bit easier to work on, but it also means that it's extremely hard to kill. So it's established now in Asia and parts of Europe, and it is continuing to spread. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine for it. It kills about 80% of the pigs that it does infect, and we haven't had it occur here in Australia. The OIE, which is the International Organisation for Animal Health, describes it as a transboundary animal disease, and that means it's spread by live and dead pigs, domestic or wild, and it can be spread through pork products. And because of that, it can be transmitted via feed when people allow pigs to eat swill, and it can also be transferred on fomites, and a fomite is a non-living thing such as clothing, equipment, shoes, knives, etc., because it does have a very high environmental resistance. In fact, you have to go beyond 100 degrees centigrade to actually kill the virus, and freezing it and thawing it does not destroy it. It was first detected in Kenya around 1920, and it was contained within the sub-Saharan part of the continent up until the mid-1950s, when it got transported to Eastern Europe, and that's where we've seen it develop in the wild boar population in Eastern Europe, and it's spread through a number of countries there, through Georgia and Russia and the Ukraine. It was in 2014 that it got to Lithuania, and that was when we started to see it impacting the European Union. In fact, Denmark, one of the world's largest exporters of pork meat, has this year commenced building a fence between it and Germany on its southern border to keep out the wild boars in order to protect their industry. So it is quite scary in terms of how it's being spread, and of course it's being spread primarily by humans, and that's been through the movement of pigs and contaminated equipment and products that contain the disease. So its changing distribution means that it's a very significant threat to Australia, and by the end of 2019, it's estimated that it will have wiped out over 200 million pigs in China, and could, yes, very well threaten our pork industry, which is valued at around $5.3 billion here in Australia. So an outbreak would be extremely devastating for not only our pig production and health, but have ongoing economic and social impacts. And those social impacts are probably not well understood at this stage, but we are starting to see them emerge. So for instance, heparin is a blood coagulant produced from pigs. We're starting to realise and experience a shortage of heparin and its production. Other aspects include pigs are great garbage disposal units. You know, they'll eat anything. So in countries where the pig population is being wiped out, particularly China, there's been build-up of waste. And then social disruption, again, probably not that well understood at this stage, but now that the disease has moved pretty much through to the bottom half of Indonesia there, it's only a matter of time that it will transfer across into somewhere like Papua New Guinea, for instance, where pigs have a very significant cultural place in that culture. You know, they're used for bride price, they can be a sign of wealth, etc., traded for peace offerings. So it might end up that there could be social disruption, or potentially people will be hunting animals that are endangered, such as dugong. There's some interesting border interception statistics, and between last November and August this year, Department of Agriculture has intercepted over 27 tonnes of pork on air travellers entering Australia. So monitoring the border is really important, and that significant amount of pork meat that's been seized and destroyed actually equates to around 3 to 4 pigs per week, whole ones. The testing has shown a steady increase in the ASF virus in those products, and as you can see, up until September this year, it was returning around a 50% infection rate or detection rate of that virus in samples. There was also testing conducted for foot and mouth disease, which produced positive results for that virus as well. I do need to put a caveat around this information in that the tests pick up the fragments of virus. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are infectious, but it's still a very sobering statistic. So what's happening then in terms of our preparation and preparedness and prevention of this disease? The Commonwealth is strengthening biosecurity measures for permitted and unpermitted products, so that's that increased intervention activity that I was describing. And of course we don't import pork from countries where the disease occurs. There's also stronger penalties for non-compliance, so passengers that have been caught bringing in pork or pork products have received fines, as well as you probably heard on the news a week or so ago that there was a lady deported back to Vietnam for the pork that she was carrying and other meat and food items. There's the testing work that's being done, and there's also the National ASF Task Force which has been formed. So following the detection in Timor-Leste, the Commonwealth and all of the states and territories have got together, and that is a group of specialists, so our Chief Veterinary Officers, our Animal Health Australia representatives, the industry and animal health laboratories in Geelong are working on breaking down the activities into bite-sized chunks. So there's 6 task groups that are resolving some national priorities for us or looking at them. And that includes updating AusVet plan, so that's the actual plan on how we would respond, movement controls and zoning for containment, the feral pig management, which is something that Northern Territory and Queensland are working on together, the processing and product recall aspects if we were to have an incursion of ASF, and the Triple D measures that would need to be put in place, and that's the destruction, decontamination and disinfection, because that's a significant aspect of any animal disease incursion, is how do you dispose of the bodies. Other activities include rolling out testing, diagnostic testing that is consistent. So the ARL laboratories in Geelong have real-time PCR. Nationally, there was an ASF roundtable hosted by the Minister for Agriculture in September, and that was an opportunity for government and industry to discuss how we would work together and be better prepared. And there's also another internal exercise plan for early December with the view to have a larger, more comprehensive exercise that involves industry early in the new year. And of course the Australian Government is working closely with trading partners to support the continued market access for agricultural industries, which is very important. There we go. And another exciting development for us in Darwin at the International Airport was the arrival of Suki, and there she is. She's quite the celebrity. The Northern Territory, or the Darwin International Airport, hasn't had a detector dog program since 2012 when the dogs were removed from the International Airport. But since the detection of ASF in Timor, there was an assessment of risk, and Suki has been placed with us, and she's proven her worth well and truly already, detecting plant material as well as meat products, and she has detected pork products, and the passenger that was carrying those did receive a fine. We're hoping that she can be placed with us longer term, and we're talking with the Australian Government about how we make that happen. In terms of Northern Territory, what are we doing? Well, we don't have a commercial pork industry. Importantly, that needs to be noted. But what we do have is a very significant population of feral pigs. So we're working with other government agencies within the NT, including the Territory Emergency Management Council. Now those guys stand up whenever there's a cyclone or a bushfire or some sort of natural disaster event. But we have recognised that the capacity, and this would apply nationally, not only to Northern Territory, even though we are quite small, as an agriculture department, that we need to engage with other responders that have experience in emergency, and again, particularly when we will be having to destroy and dispose of animals. We held our own exercise in August this year, and no offence to our police colleagues, but we did call it Exercise Pig Pen, and they were very important participants in that exercise, and we had other representatives there as well from industry and other government agencies. We've been raising awareness consistently throughout the year, and we've been doing that over social media and other ways, articles in the news, etc., and updating our awareness info. We had a thing called Swine Saturdays, and that was our first foray into the social media side of things. We concentrated particularly on the aspects of not feeding swill to pigs. We have an incident management team in place, so normally we wouldn't stand up an IMT unless we had an incursion, but again, this is part of our preparedness. The TEMSI updates are happening regularly. We've strengthened our compliance program around pig feed, particularly in waste disposal areas, and that's around Darwin as well as in community and other regional centres. We've had strong industry and community engagement, and we have our own incident action plan, and our mission is to prevent an incursion of ASF in pigs in the NT whilst preparing for early detection and appropriate control should we have an incursion. So we've been scraping data together as well in terms of where feral pigs are located in the Northern Territory, and that map up there you can see shows the current distribution of feral pigs, and there's many. There's estimated to be anywhere between 500,000 or 1 million. I'd say it's probably closer to 1 million. Australia has anywhere between 5 and 25 million feral pigs is the estimation. They're very hard to get a census data on. So we utilise data sets, so the NARCS guys, Atlas of Living Australia, which is a citizen science reporting on over the internet. We've also got data from magpie geese surveys when pigs have been spotted, and also the purple dots which extend further down into the territory show where we have properties that are registered with pigs being present. We are focusing on passive surveillance, and by passive surveillance I mean that's relying on people or asking people to report if they see any sick pigs or dead pigs to us as a measure to get on top of things early if it were to occur. And you can see that we've got quite a variety of surveillance networks there, from our vets through to property owners, pig hunters, controllers, even croc egg harvesters and rangers for wildlife and Indigenous. We're supporting our surveillance networks by looking at how we can develop a kit that doesn't require cold chain. So that means we can provide a kit to these people that are out in the bush, might come across a sick pig or a dead pig, take a sample to us, send it back, and that integrity of the sample will be retained. And we're also going to do some training for the wildlife rangers. We've also developed quite a comprehensive suite of information, industry engagement materials, asking people to register their properties, especially if they have pigs on them, and talking to industry, the non-pig related industries, i.e. cattle, which would be the largest for the NT, about what an outbreak might mean for them. We have a community awareness campaign where we've developed this pig caricature. Now he's a little bit cheeky, it's fun and quirky, and the reason we've done this is that we need to capture an audience that may not necessarily have an association with pigs. So this is our foray, or how we get people interested through social media, and then we layer that messaging with the more serious information, including, this pointer, there we are, fact sheets, and that targets various groups, so community, industry, and our hunters. So the hunting fraternity or hunting groups in the Northern Territory are ones that we were talking to and getting information from real time, which is excellent. So we convey the series of the disease through these fact sheets. And we've also translated them into 7 different languages. So Darwin is actually the entry point for the Timorese seasonal worker program. All of the Timorese seasonal workers come through Darwin, and they either stay and go and work in the Northern Territory, or they will take flights to other parts of Australia. So they're working in agriculture as well as hospitality. We put our pig online a couple of weekends ago, and he went gangbusters. Very popular, in fact, more popular than the $1 Million Fish campaign on the Northern Territory Government Facebook page. So we're feeling good about that. We've developed some collateral, so we have a handout and a fridge magnet, which we're starting to distribute, and other posters. You'll notice that our taglines are a little bit cute and quirky as well. Save our bacon, don't be a jerky, moment of your time, save our swine, etc. Pigs don't fly, but you do. And hey, are you packing pork? And that has actually been, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency contacted us and said, we love what you're doing, can we please share your materials? So we've been sharing these materials nationally, and now we're sharing them internationally. What can you do? If you're a producer, make sure you have an up-to-date property biosecurity plan. It's essential to protect yourself and the industry. Complete the livestock production assurance program, online learning modules. And if you're travelling, don't bring meat or animal products into Australia. Declare if you visited a farm. That's really important if you've got equipment or shoes or clothing, etc., that you've been in contact with pigs. And mostly know the signs of what ASF looks like and report those sick or dead pigs to the EAD hotline immediately. And again, a little bit of a cheeky twist from the NT. We've labelled that, if it looks sus, call us. Thank you.